Thanks to all our viewers for joining us in this series. We are on this exploration into the fascinating intersection of neuroscience and spirituality with Dr. Ashish Pradhan, who is a distinguished leader in neurology and cardiovascular medicine. Welcome, Dr. Ashish.
Thank you, Monica ji. Great to be back again.
Oh, yeah, definitely. My pleasure. So, at the outset, the question that I always ask you about every energy center that we talk about, I know today we are focused on the fifth energy center. So, what is the relationship between the autonomic nervous system and the fifth energy center? And then, what organs does this center relate to in human anatomy? We also hear about the thyroid gland, maybe, a little bit about that.
Sure. So let us begin as always. So the fifth energy center, also called the Vishuddhi chakra, basically it has critical role to play in the human evolution. Each of these centers do. We have been saying from the very beginning, the whole system is integrated. It is not sort of unitary. But this energy center is kind of special in its own way. It has sort of 16 aspects to it according to the Sahaj teachings. So if we look at human evolution from the time, again, from when it started, unicellular life forms, right up to the vertebrate animals or mammals such as us, uh, this energy center is believed to have played two roles. One is this energy center essentially controls for the uh, the voice box or the larynx, right? It also controls the movement of our arms and so on and so forth. But it is speech that I would like to focus on a little bit. So we have within us, as we have said number of times in this series now, the autonomic nervous system. Basically, what this series is really about: two components, sympathetic, parasympathetic, and the larynx or the voice box is controlled by two nerves called the recurrent laryngeal nerves, and they are offshoots. They come from the vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve comes again from the midbrain, as we have said in the past. So the long and short of it is this: that in evolution, one of the reasons, according to evolutionary biologists, that the Homo sapien enjoys this preeminent position uh, on this planet is because of its ability to communicate. So communication is one of the key functions of that is enabled by the working of this energy center. And if we think about it, it is the power of speech. Now, it is not that sounds that are produced by an organism are unique to the Homo sapien. There are multiple other species, thousands and thousands of them, that produce sounds. Birds produce sounds, animals produce sounds, mammals such as whales and dolphins in the water, they produce sounds. So producing sound by itself is not the issue. Multiple, and in all these organisms, it's probably this energy center that has also played a role. But in the human being, it is the most evolved because it allows us to form what we call speech patterns that we call words and therefore language. And it is this language that has allowed, or the ability to create languages, to speak languages, to communicate with each other in languages, which unfortunately sometimes also leads to divisions amongst individuals and communities and nations. But it is this power of language that has essentially enabled us to gain dominance over other species. Now, how did that pan out? How did it provide us with an evolutionary advantage? So it is hypothesized, and there is maybe a full rational background as to how this can be, how this was probably possible, is if we go back to literally millions of years and maybe hundreds of thousands of years after that, when humans started living in caves, basically with primitive tools and so on and so forth. They were, of course, subject to attacks by wild animals and so on and so forth. So, let's say two individuals living in the same cave or near each other could warn each other through a pattern of speech that there may be a saber-toothed tiger close by, and then banding together, maybe either running away from it or making sure you did not get close to it. That allowed for a survival advantage, and then we can expand on this for the next as much as we want, but we can see how that ability to communicate of a danger, forewarning of a threat to an individual or to a family or to a group of individuals, to a settlement, allowed this to happen. So in the human evolution, this center has played a very important role. The other role that the founder of this system of meditation, Sri Mataji Nirmala Devi, always says is that it was this center that allowed us to raise our head. So this cervical curvature, if you see the human skeleton or the human vertebral column in profile, you have the cervical curvature, then you have the thoracic curvature, and then you have the lumbar and the sacral curvatures. So essentially, when in the Neanderthal stage or in the Denisovan stage, the other species that preceded the Homo sapien, if you see the classic biology textbook showing the evolution of man, of people, somebody hunched over and then gradually standing upright. This upright posture, and particularly the raising of the neck, is believed to have been influenced by this energy center through its control of the vertebral column as well as the nerves, both the sympathetic, the parasympathetic, as well as the skeletal nerves that allow for the musculature to function in this fashion. Besides the vocal cords, this energy center again is responsible for the control of our teeth, our musculature here, our face, the muscles, as well as our ears. So again, think about it. The sense of and the sense of olfaction, that is our sense of smell. So the sense of smell, the ability to hear, and the ability to speak are all functions that are governed by this single energy center. And if we go back and into our evolutionary process, it is believed that the sense of smell was the first amongst all other senses that was evolved or that was developed, because in the water the little fish had to detect the presence of a predator by smelling through the very primitive olfactory cells that it had, the presence of a larger animal or a larger being, because of the chemicals that it emitted through its presence. So the sense of olfaction also gave us that evolutionary advantage as it evolved. The sense of hearing, same thing. When we heard sounds, the sense of sound, I think we discussed this in a previous episode, developed even before the cells that eventually over millions of years became our eyes or the sense of vision. So the sense of smell and the sense of hearing allowed us that evolutionary advantage as the human condition evolved, but basically even starting from literally billions of years ago. So this energy center allowed us to evolve, to gain what we might dare use the word consciousness, who we are as individuals, as a collective, as a body, started from this particular energy center. And that is why this center, from a Sahaj point of view, is responsible for allowing us to have a sense of collectivity, which we will deal with later in this episode. Uh, the thyroid gland, again, very important. It sits here in front of the trachea, in this upper part, and the thyroid gland essentially secretes hormones that we are all familiar with, that is thyroxine and triiodothyronine, the thyronine T3, T4. Most of us who have undergone exams, your internist will ask for those for the levels of those hormones. Those hormones are very important because they are related to a neural development, to the development of the brain. So the thyroid hormones essentially help in what is called as neurogenesis, which means the growth of cells. They are important for synaptogenesis, which means the connectivity between these neurons, which are very important. We'll deal with this in the final episode. But these are synapses through which neurons talk to each other, and the overall development of the brain is very important. Is sorry is The presence of these hormones is very important for optimal development of the brain. And unfortunately, we know that individuals who from birth or lack this hormone do suffer from neurological conditions, and even sometimes mental retardation. So these hormones are important, and that is why this energy center, which is the fifth energy center, is so critical for human evolution, for the development of the human brain, the overall development of the nervous system, the sense of collectivity that we feel both as an individual, as part of a larger organism. There's one interesting thing, and I know this answer is very long, but there is one interesting hypothesis that has recently been postulated, is that this energy center probably also controlled for the, as we said, the development of the entire, the musculature, but also the bones. Muscles essentially sit on the bones, right? The bones provide the framework, the muscles sit on that. That if you see, if you have seen images or in museums or sketches or what we know from skeletons that have been discovered of our ancestors from the distant past, the lower jaw protrudes forward, right? So the front part of the face, the upper part of the face kind of sits at the back, the lower jaw kind of juts forward. You see that in apes, in great apes. Whereas with the human being, the jaw kind of has gone back and it is much more level. And the reason for that is hypothesized to be that this muscle that controls our mastication, the chewing, the lower jaw that goes up and down when we chew food, which is the lower bone, which is called as the mandible bone. The mandible bone was much more stronger and protruded forward, but through a gene that controlled for its development is essentially thought to have changed the structure of the bone to the extent that it allowed for the mandible to kind of go back, and because of that the biomechanical forces were reduced, or there was less stress on it, and that allowed for the brain, for the skull to grow. Now let's put it all together, right? The lower part of the face, which is the mandible, if it was longer, it caused more stress here, and therefore it pulled this down and did not allow these two parts of the cranium, the skull, to basically expand, and therefore what was inside it, the brain couldn't expand. But because this kind of went back, biomechanical forces reduced here, and that reduced pressure on the cranium bones here on both sides allowed for the brain to, allowed for that space for this mass of cells inside called the brain to expand. So it is absolutely fascinating to sort of see, and of course hypothesize. We cannot prove this, there is no way to easily prove this, but it is a fact that had the mandible sort of been not controlled, or had it not kind of gone back, maybe the ability of the cranium to grow and therefore for the brain to expand, which makes this possible, you and I to speak, would perhaps not have been possible. So this energy center is absolutely critical. It's fascinating, it's extremely complex, but it has played probably a stellar role in human evolution.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's such a sophisticated, mechanism and this evolution. It's so interesting to learn about this. So, Dr. Ashish, now, as we understand that every center has some qualities that, an individual manifests, and then is there any potential scientific basis to the Sahaj teaching that collective consciousness begins from this center?
Yes, it's a a little complex mechanism again, or maybe a complex explanation, but we'll try to simplify this. So along with the control of the vocal box, of the larynx, of the vocal cords within the larynx, and the other parts within the face, uh, this energy center is also believed to control two other plexuses. One is the cervical plexus, and the other one is the so-called brachial plexus. And these are, again, as we have discussed, plexuses are basically groups of nerves. They contain both sympathetic, parasympathetic, and sensory components. Now, the brachial plexus essentially controls the movement of our arms. It makes the movement of our arms possible. That helps us to communicate. The interesting fact is that so far as micro dissection techniques have allowed us to examine, we do not have parasympathetic nerve endings in the tips of our fingers. We only have sympathetic nerve endings. And although we believe that, of course, the parasympathetic controls everything within the viscera, we have discussed this before, through the vagus nerve predominantly for the most part, but there are no sympathetic nerve endings in the tips of our fingers. Now, how is that important? It's important from a Sahaj point of view, because when the inner energy rises and it crosses this energy center, the fifth energy center within the central channel, it, through mechanisms that are physiologically very difficult to appreciate, not yet, I mean, human science has not reached that stage, but probably one day will. However, it does allow us to feel the reality as that is beyond sort of the cognitive sort of perception, or the ability to do it. And that is, we can feel what are called as vibrations, this cool breeze that does blow through the, not sort of, but blows through the tips of our fingers. Now, now let's put it all together. The energy rises through the central channel, which is predominantly parasympathetic. It is not sympathetic, it's parasympathetic. However, the ability to feel the rising of this energy and the consequence of that rising is possible through, or is predominantly felt through the tips of our fingers, which is sympathetic. And therefore, it is at the level of this energy center, because of these two plexuses, the brachial plexus particularly and the cervical plexus, but predominantly the brachial plexus, which innervates our hands and the nerves in our hands. It is very important to see how this energy center, or we can see very well how this energy center allows us to feel these vibrations. Now, because of that, because of Sahaj, when this energy rises and you can have that feeling, your ability to feel that allows you to get this realization that you are not just you, but you are part of a larger reality, that you exist as part of a larger system, of a larger reality that sort of transcends you. And this is the beginning of what is called as collective consciousness. So we have individual consciousness. I'm breathing, I'm seeing you, I'm hearing you, you are seeing me, so that is our individual consciousness. But when this inner energy rises, it is only through the awakening sort of this energy center that allows us to feel through the sympathetic system what is actually happening within the parasympathetic system. So let me repeat that. It is these nerves at the tips of our fingers do not have parasympathetic endings. So what is otherwise happening within the parasympathetic, we would have no ability to know. It is only because of this energy center that we can feel this sensation in our hands, what is happening within the parasympathetic nervous system. And which is why the founder of this system of meditation, Shri Mataji, always used to say that in order to feel these cool breeze, what she called vibrations, you need to have this energy center that is in a very good condition, that is in a healthy condition, and therefore it is very important to keep this energy, keep this center in a great working condition, so that you can feel it. But that as I said, is a bit complex, but that is how we begin to comprehend and to experience collective consciousness.
Well, Dr. Ashish, every single discussion with you has been so much interesting. We've learned a lot with you, and I do want to once again thank you for your time today. And we look forward to talking to you on the next episode about the Next Energy Center. Thanks once again.
Thank you again. Thanks to you.
And we would encourage our viewers to follow the meditation video that is going to be guided by the founder of this meditation. And we wish you all the very best in your experiment and this experience with Sahaj meditation. Thank you.
Now we come to the other center of Vishuddhi Chakra, which is this is the most important, in the sense that it ends all your evolution as far as human life is concerned. This has got 16 petals. Outside in the gross it manifests the cervical plexus and controls your ear, nose, throat, muscles your eyes and your face. Also it controls the first bone and all the bones that go up to the cranial bones. So it is the center of your responsibility, by which you feel responsibility. But when this center is awakened, the greater center representing them here, because all these centers are represented again in a bigger way in the brain. So this center, when it is awakened, which is a bigger, larger center of this, you become collectively conscious. This is the center of collectivity. Keep your eyes closed. First of all, please put your right hand on your heart. All the time the left hand is towards me. Now, here you have to say, in your heart, with all sincerity, Mother, am I the spirit? Ask the question 3 times in your heart. This is a very fundamental question. Now bring the right hand on to the left hand side of your stomach, in the upper part. Here press it. Now this is the center of your mastery, your guidance, your Guru Tattva as they say. So ask a question, Mother, am I my own master? This is a question to be asked 3 times. Mother, am I my own master? Now, bring your right hand down below, in the lower part of the abdomen. Now, this is the center from which all the divine work is done. All the pure work is done. So to ask 6 times, because this center has got 6 petals. Mother, please give me pure knowledge. 6 times you just ask. As a result of this asking, the Kundalini starts getting awakened. Now to help the Kundalini to rise, you have to cooperate with her. So please put your right hand on the left hand side in the upper part of your abdomen and press it on the stomach. Now here you have to say with full confidence, to help the Kundalini to rise, Mother, I am my own master. This you have to say 10 times. These are the 10 commandments which you have to say. That, Mother, I am my own master. Now, 10 times with full confidence. Now, please raise your right hand to your heart. Now, here you have to say, again with full confidence, Mother, I am the Spirit. This is the truth. You are the Spirit. But you have to say with full confidence, Mother, I am the Spirit. This you have to say 12 times. Now one has to know that God Almighty is the ocean of love. But above all, He is the ocean of forgiveness. So He forgives. Whatever wrong you do, He forgives. So don't feel guilty and put your right hand across. On the left hand side, in the corner which is made by your neck and your shoulder. Now here you have to say, again with full confidence, 16 times, Mother, I am not guilty. Please say it. Mother, I am not guilty. 16 times. I am not guilty at all. Please say it. Please say it. Very hot. Now raise your hand across on your forehead. And it's a very important center. Here you have to say from your heart, Mother, I forgive everyone. Please say it from your heart. How many times is not the point. Mother, I forgive everyone. Now some would say that it's very difficult to forgive. But it's a myth that we do not forgive or we forgive. We do not do anything in both the cases. But if we don't forgive, then we play into wrong hands. So please say from your heart, Mother, I forgive everyone. Now please take your hand on the back agya, the same center, on the back side of your head and allow your head to rest on it and push it back a little bit. Now here, you have to say, for your satisfaction, because you always feel guilty, that, O Divine, if I have done anything wrong, please forgive me. Please forgive me. from your heart. Stretch your hand fully and put your center of your palm on top of the fontanelle bone area, which was a very soft bone in your childhood. Press it hard. Press hard your scalp. Now you have to move it 7 times, saying one thing which you have to ask for: Mother, please give us my self-realization, because I cannot force on you. So you have to ask for it. 7 times, press it hard and move it 7 times, very hard. Slowly, saying that.